Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Desjardins, and I am the Resource Services Manager at Culture Source. Culture Source, for those of you who do not know, is a regional art service organization, and we serve the 7 counties of Southeast Michigan, and all of the arts and cultural activity happening within it. So many of, we have a member base of arts and culture nonprofits, and, work to serve all of you through various programs and convenings, funding opportunities, and research. So today I am here to kind of help lead our Detroit Arts or the Detroit Art Support info session. And essentially, Detroit Art Support is an operating support program for arts and cultural organizations in Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. It's a partnership between the Kresge Foundation, the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Foundation, and the Hudson Weber Foundation. For over 10 years, Detroit Art Support Initiative has provided unrestricted operating funding to arts and cultural organizations in the Metro Detroit region, and the program aims to strengthen the sector broadly through consistent support for a diverse set of organizations that contribute to the quality of life in metropolitan Detroit and provide opportunities for creative expression to people of all backgrounds. Today, we're going to just talk through briefly some info about the Detroit Art Support Program and share 10 tips and things to be mindful of in applying for Detroit Art Support. And then we'll follow up with some Q&A too, where Omari and I will do our best to answer your questions. Before launching into the top 10, also just want to make it very clear that Culture Source is helping Detroit Art Support partners administer this initiative. So basically, helping to pull together the info session, the website, the application. But Culture Source is not making any funding recommendations or funding decisions. So just wanted to be very clear about that and our role in the whole Detroit Art Support Program. So to start with our top 10 kind of tips on Detroit Art Support. So the first one is that applications are due Monday, June 20th, sorry, at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's applications are due Monday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wanted that to be the first thing we mentioned just because it's the most important. That's when applications are due. Applicants must be 501c3 nonprofits and have at least 2 years of programming and a mission dedicated primarily to arts, culture, and creativity. That is our second tip. The third is that organizations must employ the equivalent of 1 full-time person on staff and have cash revenues of at least $100,000 from their most recently completed fiscal year. For any questions about how to calculate the full-time person on staff or FTE equivalent, we have that listed in the FAQ on the Detroit Art Support website. So hopefully that will be helpful when you're doing those calculations. Fourth tip is organizations must have a current financial audit no older than fiscal year 2019, conducted by an independent certified public accountant. Or if you have a budget of less than $250,000, provide a qualified review or IRS Form 990. Number 5, all application questions are available on the Detroit Art Support website under the sample app button. Please use this sample application to help prepare your application outside of the browser. Application questions are nearly the same as they were in the last Detroit Art Support cycle in 2019. This sample app button, you can find it near the bottom of the Detroit Art Support website, as well as the FAQ button and an application checklist too. So feel free to explore those materials and use them to help prepare your application. Number 6, the application platform, which we're using FormStack, will save applications as you go. So please use that feature. We do still recommend working on applications external to the browser and then completing the application in one go or one pass. So, take those application questions from the sample application, go over them in Google Docs or Word, and then, when you're ready to kind of completely apply, then use it in the browser. We recommend that process, even though FormStack still does save your work. Sometimes you just never know with the way that browsers and the internet could go out, that kind of stuff too. Number 7, Application responses are encouraged to be only 250 words each, but if a sentence or idea runs over 250 words, you have up to 500 words per response. Again, 250 words each, but there is the flexibility to, go up to 500 words, but it's really recommended that, you stick in that 250 words area. Number 8, not all organizations will be selected for funding by all funding partners. Selection is not merit-based, and again, CultureSource is not making funding selections. Foundations will announce funding decisions in the fall of 2022, and applicants will be notified via email to the grant contact email listed in the application. Plus, CultureSource will post foundation funding decisions on the Detroit Art Support website. So when the funding decisions are announced, they will be announced on that website and then also via email to the grant contact email. Number 9, the nonprofit finance consulting firm TDC will once again analyze the financial documents submitted by applicants and report findings to the Detroit Art Support funding partners. After the application deadline, applicants will be able to schedule a one-on-one time with TDC to discuss the financial findings about their individual organizations. This is a valuable resource and opportunity that we hope many organizations will take advantage of. And then number 10, to lift up helpful insights about each applicant organization, as well as the arts and culture sector broadly, members of 4 focus groups will read and discuss all of the applications. Detroit Art Support Funding's partners will be in attendance for the discussion of these applications, and each applicant will be able to listen to the discussion of their application too. Focus groups are not scoring applications or making funding recommendations. Focus group discussions are being used for useful knowledge building. And then a bonus, top 10, our 11th point is explore the foundation's funding criteria and formulas at the bottom of the Detroit Art Support website. If you have questions about logistics or applying for DAS, please contact grants@culturesource.org, and Omari and I will do our best to answer your question about the logistics or applying. But if you have specific questions for foundation representatives, please email the foundation contacts. They are listed in the website directly. I'm just going to show where that is real quick by sharing my screen, and then we'll go over to Q&A. So here we have the Detroit Art Support website. This nice little apply button will take you down to the application, the FAQ document, the checklist, and then that sample application I chatted about earlier. We'll also be posting a recording of this info session on the website too, for if you want to go over those top 10 recommendations again. And then please explore the foundation's info by clicking these boxes too. We're hoping that that's also helpful for better understanding funding criteria, funding formulas, and all of that. We've also detailed eligibility and the process. And yeah, just remember to go to detroitartsupport.org. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or unmute.
Sorry. No? Yeah, take a step and have to know what you're
Okay. Michael.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to ask a question. I am wondering about what was previously called data arts. And if you're familiar with that, that was an opportunity for programs to enter a lot of information about their organizations into a central database. I think it's SMU Data Arts now. Previously, that had been a requirement for applying as well as for completing any mandatory reports. Is that a component that I might have missed when reading through for this application cycle? Thanks.
Yeah, and Omari, you can correct me if I'm wrong here too, but the SMU Data Arts profile is no longer needed for this application. Instead, we're looking, or the funding partners will be looking mostly at financials, and then I think the audits. So everything in that sample application is what's required. But yes, you'll see that data arts or the SMU Data Arts what is formerly known as the cultural data profile is no longer a requirement for this application process. Hope that helped, Michael. Anne, do you have a question? Oh, let me ask you to unmute.
There you go. I'm with WDET and my question is regards to the budget. Since it's general operating support, is it just the organizational budget that we need to submit? There's no other carve out or subset of that that needs to be uploaded or attached?
I think so. Omari, do you want to answer that one?
Yes, it's your general organization operating budget.
Okay.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank
Brenda?
you.
Yes, on the Kresge, on the data, on the Detroit Art Support page on the Kresge website, it speaks to a 3-page narrative. Is that no longer needed? We're just completing the application form?
Yeah, it's just the application form. Brenda, if you could send me that website that you're referencing, that would be really helpful, because then
Okay, because
well,
when you search Detroit Art Support, the first thing that comes up on a Google search is that Kresge website.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'll send that to you. That's why yesterday I was having trouble finding the newly branded site.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's super helpful. Thanks for that, Brenda. Yeah,
Okay.
send that my way, and I'll make sure that our colleagues work with Kresge to find a way to, either scrub that or kind of push this website up forward. That's, yeah, really helpful.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks, Brenda. Any other questions? Let me see if there looks like there are some in the chat, which I'm just going to read aloud because this is being recorded, and we want people, who tune into this after the fact to also, hear these questions too. Where's DeRoy? So DeRoy Testamentary Foundation chose not to participate in the cycle of Detroit.
And Adam, just as a point of information, I've answered some of these in the chat already.
Yes, I'm going to read those answers too. And then will organizations only be funded by one foundation, or is it possible that orgs will receive funding from more than one foundation? The answer to that is it is possible that organizations may receive, that organizations may be funded by more than one foundation. And then let's see. There's a question from Angela that's about, they've never seen the budget questions phrased this way. Do you think when they say operating expenses, they only mean the overhead/admin? In terms of operating income, I'm very confused. Do they mean just general ops grants? Because I consider everything operating income. And the response to that was this should be all of your expenses, not just admin. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute. Thank you, Brenda, for sharing that link to Kresge. Well, if there's no other questions, this was meant to be a pretty straightforward, simple, quick info session. And we hope that a lot of what's on the application website is just as clear and simple and straightforward. But if there are any questions, like I said, you can email grants@culturesource.org about applying. But then if you have specific questions for the foundations, their contacts, the foundation contacts are also on that Detroit Art Support website too. There is one more question that says under eligibility, it says orgs must be located in and serving Wayne, Oakland, or Macomb counties. Is this in reference to a brick and mortar presence in these counties? Omari, any insights on this one?
You should be headquartered in one of those 3 counties.
Great, thank you. Great. Well, if there are no other questions, we will wrap this up. Again, I point everybody to the frequently asked questions section as well, which answers a bunch of different questions ranging from subsidiary organizations to just general application questions. And as we get more questions in, we'll be updating that frequently asked question Google Doc, which will automatically update as we add those questions too. So feel free to keep checking there, and then reach out to grants@culturesource.org with any other questions about this program. Thank you all for making the time to be here this morning, learn a little bit more about the program, and wishing you all the best in applying too. Take care.
Thank you.